Did you hear that 91% of guys that use Dove Men Plus Care antiperspirant recommend it? Dove Men Plus Care user Daniel said that his armpits aren't the worst thing at the gym anymore. Make the locker room a better place and pick up some new Dove Men Plus Care for your gym bag at your local retailer.
Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests appear on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line. Michael Vick a little later. Basketball's gone crazy. The postseason was all right. The regular season, not so good. Off-season, awesome.
Been great.
Awesome.
Been great. Yeah, it really have.
It has clearly displaced the baseball winter meetings as the best hot stove, right? I mean, it's the opposite now. It needs to be like a cool fridge because you want hot stove during the off-season in baseball because it's cold. But whatever it is, it's the best off-season in sports.
It's just a matter if the disgust of pizza-flavored ice cream overtakes it.
So let's get into this with Will Cain. Will, you have a legal background.
I do.
So it is my belief there is an ice cream parlor in Philadelphia that is making an ice cream now that is meant to be pizza-flavored. They make it with tomato sauce and oregano and basil. And it is my opinion that criminal charges should at least be considered for this egregious act. And what are your if I were to try and retain you to potentially bring some sort of action here, what would be your response?
I don't think we have much of a case, but the more I get to know you, Greeny, I think our differences become more stark. You at heart, and Mike, you can give some voice to this, some testament to this, might just be a tyrant. Like you want your way, and if it needs to be, you will use every ounce of the government and law to force your way. Here's what I think. I think pizza-flavored ice cream will get sorted out in the free market. I think this will get sorted out just fine by the voting with your feet of the marketplace. No one will buy pizza-flavored ice cream.
This place also does cucumber dill flavored ice cream and ranch flavored ice cream.
Would you like to reconsider your stance?
I don't know how they stay in business.
How long have they been doing these flavors?
I don't know, but they need to stop.
On the other hand, it's got us sitting here this morning talking about it.
That's true.
Which I would imagine.
I wouldn't even want to try it, though. I wouldn't. And I know that, any publicity is good publicity. Maybe someone will come in to try it. No, I will not.
But maybe you'll go into what other flavors they have, Mike.
I'm looking here. They also have grape nuts. They have their flagship weirdo flavor, Earl Grey Sriracha. They say it tastes kind of like spicy Fruit Loops. But who wants that? Who is sitting around thinking, what would be really terrific if we made Fruit Loops spicy? No one likes that.
And then made that ice cream.
Yeah, and then turned that into ice cream.
Yeah.
So
we're getting played. We're getting played.
Yeah,
we're getting played. They're talking. We're talking about them.
Oh.
I need to find a better lawyer here because I need one who will bring some sort of legal action. Okay, let's move on. I want to finish up the conversation we were having about the baseball manager because, Mike, you took it in a direction I was not expecting. Mm-hmm. We'll let Will Cain break the tie. I'm going to play the sound again for everybody to hear. So 2 nights ago, in a play that was borderline illegal and, in my opinion, not dirty.
Right.
So the way I read the new rule about blocking home plate in Major League Baseball is we now have basically an understanding. The catcher's responsibility is to give the runner a little room to get to the plate, and the runner's responsibility is to take it. His job, Anthony Rizzo's job in that spot, Hedges, the catcher, gave him enough room to get to the plate without bowling him over. Rizzo's job, maybe this is not the way the rule is written, but I think it's the way it generally is interpreted is, I gave you some room, you take that room, and we'll see what happens. As opposed to bowling me over, even if I'm blocking a little bit of the play.
And I hate it because I'll give you that room. I have the ball. You're going to be out. The only way you cannot be out unless the ball is dislodged from my mitt and you're taking that completely away from the player.
But basically, Mike, yes, that's what's happened.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is
they
made a conscious decision, just as they have for safety reasons in football, they put in rules you can't stand, that no one individual out on June 18th is worth a collision like that could easily result in injury.
Did he break the rule? Did Joe Torre say, Anthony Rizzo, you broke the rule? We're not going to suspend you or fine you, but you broke the rule.
Yes, he did.
Okay.
He did.
Okay.
So we assumed yesterday, Will Cain, that Rizzo, who leads off now, was going to take one in the ribs or the butt or something like that as a result. San Diego manager Andy Green, I'm going to play this for you again for those just joining us, said absolutely no way.
This is what I've always asked. What do you accomplish by hitting somebody? You accomplish nothing. You put a man on first base and you give him an opportunity to win a baseball game. You don't all of a sudden, gain the high moral ground because you chose to retaliate. You don't all of a sudden get to pound your chest because you were man enough to throw a ball at somebody's back. I think it's absolutely asinine to even take that approach.
I say bravo. Golic says...
I say I'm outdated to the if you stare at a ball and a home run for a half second too long, if it takes you 27 seconds around the bases instead of 25 seconds around the bases, that person gets thrown at for doing his job of taking you yard, and now you're throwing at him. I have no problem because there's policing in every sport when something physical is done to one of your players. Rizzo, though I agree, not intentional, broke the rule and injured a player on another team. So when the manager says it serves no purpose, the purpose it does serve is to say, you know what? You got our back. What he did was illegal according to the rules, hurt one of our players. Let's let him feel one in the rib cage. Does it change a whole lot? No, I get kind of what he's saying. But you know what? Hey, you hurt one of our players on an illegal play. You're going to feel a little bit of pain too, and then we're going to move on.
Will Cain.
Okay, so let me see. I can boil this down. Basically, Golic, you're pro ball in the ribs, and Greeny, you're anti ball in the ribs.
Yeah.
I'm with Golic.
Why?
Well, here's the thing. Here's what I think one of the best parts of baseball is the culture of baseball, not the rules of baseball, and it certainly isn't often the action of baseball. It's the messy little gray areas of baseball. It's the self-policing. It's the unwritten rules. I like this working it out on the field. So if the players and a manager decide that's what needs to be done, I'm all for it. But let me offer you this. This is why I think San Diego shouldn't in this case and didn't in this case. It's that baseball has this culture internally where you can't stare at a home run, but you can play physically. And for much of baseball's history, running into the catcher to dislodge the ball was part of the culture. You're right, Greeny. There's a rule now that would discourage that kind of play, but it's still in the culture. It's different than sliding into second with your cleats high. Mm-hmm. It's different than staring down a home run, all of which would get a ball in the ribs. This traditionally was part of the culture, so it doesn't get a ball in the ribs.
So you just started the conversation by saying you agreed with Golic, but you ended it by sounding like you agree with me.
Well, I agree with Golic that has a place in the game. That self-policing has a place in the game. That we actually should encourage that to some extent. I'm not part of this, wow, that's a Neanderthalic thing about baseball, that somehow if you do some wrong infraction on some rule we can't write down that you get a 100-mile-an-hour ball thrown at you. No, that's part of baseball. I just don't think in this particular instance that rule or that unwritten rule should be enforced.
Oh, by the way, Rizzo led the game off with a home run.
We don't want to give him first base for free. It'll prove nothing as he rounds first on his way to home.
Will Cain is here with the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. As it turned out, they would have been much better off putting him on first base. All right, there's all this talk about the Knicks trading Kristaps Porzingis. Will Cain, what say you?
Okay, let's take our options here on Phil Jackson. What is Phil Jackson? I'm going to give you guys a multiple choice, and you tell me which of these is most likely. Phil Jackson is A, sabotaging the New York Knicks, B, a genius whose plan we cannot yet ascertain, or C, incompetent. See, now, Greeny, I appreciate your work on the board, but I don't think you can be simultaneously sabotaging the New York Knicks and incompetent. One is a calculated move that takes some plan and foresight. The other is bumbling through the forest, bumping into every tree.
Okay, let me take all of those in order. Let's start with this. Phil Jackson is an extraordinarily intelligent person. I think that he is. I really don't want to say this. I don't want to be on record as saying that I think Phil Jackson is trying to get himself fired, because down deep inside, that feels like something that's so easy to say. And the notion that it's really happening is such an indictment. I mean, that is such an extraordinary personal statement to be making it out someone that he is purposely doing his job badly so that he can walk away with $24 million. That I'm not going to say that. I refuse. I was joking around on the board, but I'm not going to say that. I am not going to have my name attached to that. Having said that, I cannot think of a better reason to trade Kristaps Porzingis, or better yet, to let the world know. Here's what I want to know. I want to know where the story came from, and we never will. Right? Because these stories, as I try and say all the time, they don't make themselves up, right? The Adrian Wojnarskis and the Mark Steins and the Brian Windhorsts and the Ramona Shelburns, they get their information from people, from places, and those people have an agenda. There's a reason they want that information to be known. This isn't a bad thing. It's called the way the coverage of sports works. If this is indeed coming from the Knicks, if it is the Knicks side that they wanted this out there, I'm dying to know what the reason was. Why, if you are the Knicks, would you want it out there? I can't think of a more logical explanation than Phil wanting it to get out there so that the reaction would be so overwhelmingly passionate on the part of Knicks fans against it that something would happen as a result. I can't think of a better reason.
I have no idea what's going on here. None of why it's out there, and if it wasn't started from the Knicks, why they wouldn't shut it down and say, I know you always answer the phone. I get that. But there is a part of you that says, okay, if you're not going to build around this guy, what are we doing? You know, what are we doing? He's a 7-footer that plays the game today the way it's there's no more 5, so he is basketball today.
So what are you guessing? Incompetent?
I honestly don't know. I mean, because I'm with Greeny. It's tough for me to think that Phil would purposely do his job bad to get fired. Does he need $24 million that badly? Does he just not want to be working that badly? I find it hard to believe. His reputation has already taken a damning hit for the way from the management side of things. So I truly – because then I thought, is it coming from Porzingis' side? Are they getting it out there because he didn't go to his exit meeting? He wants to be out of there. But if that was the case, why wouldn't the Knicks shut that down? So I can't figure it out.
Okay, well, I don't think Phil Jackson is incompetent. I think he has a plan to some extent and is attempting to execute it. So I'm going to take his resume, his history, and take incompetence, even though it's largely as a coach. His resume towards building a team, I'm just going to take incompetence off the table. I don't think that's it. So it's either sabotage or genius that we can't yet see. And I lean towards sabotage. I mean, only because it's the most logical, as you both have pointed out. But I'm trying to keep my brain limber here. I'm trying to, be the devil's advocate and see the other side of this coin. And I think the answer to what Phil could be trying to do in putting this news out is one of two things. One, you guys have talked about this morning. He's sending a message to Porzingis. The one thing we keep doing is analyzing Porzingis as a player, and he's great. Certainly he doesn't compare to Lauri Markkanen, the guy from Arizona who's 7 foot, the best shooter in the draft, shoots over 40% from three, yet doesn't rebound and doesn't play defense. Porzingis does all those things. So they don't compare. He can't be that confused to think he can replace Porzingis with Markkanen. So what's he doing? He's either A, sending a message to Porzingis and saying, you're not a problem as a player, you're a problem as a person. In the locker room, your attitude is not working, and you are expendable. Like anyone not named LeBron James is expendable. That's one option, Phil sending a message. The other is he's just waiting to see what he could get money whipped with, in this case, trade whipped with. What will somebody send me? You had Chad Ford on earlier talking about, could you get the number 3, next year's number 1, plus maybe Marcus Smart from Boston? Could you just get blown away for Porzingis? And if that potential exists, it is incumbent upon Phil to see if it's out there. Let me just see. What could I get for this guy?
The one thing I will say is, since Phil has taken over the Knicks in the position he's currently in, could you not put incompetent next to his name for some of the things he's done?
Yes, and he's new to this job. And all the credit I'm giving him, Golic, is as a coach.
Right.
But
we're not talking about that now.
I understand
been incompetent in some measure of this job. Some would say in all of this job, he's been incompetent. So you're completely taking that off the table in this case, though.
Maybe I overestimate someone's perceived intelligence.
It's hard to believe. I'm with you because it's hard to think.
Really smart.
Phil Jackson, we know, doing some of the things he's done since being the president of basketball operations, it blows my mind.
Because the word I would add to incompetent, unfortunately, in this situation also is he has seemed a tad indifferent. He doesn't seem like a person who's willing to do all of the work that we perceive to be required of this. Danny Ainge has the same job that Phil Jackson has, right? Danny Ainge is everywhere at once. He's in gyms scouting high school players, all that kind of stuff. Phil Jackson sometimes seems like he can't be bothered to actually do this job. Which leads me back to the first option, which is sabotage. Maybe he just doesn't want this job, and he's trying to find the most lucrative way out of it. And if that's the case, then that's That's about the most damning one. And again, that's why I'm not willing to go there because it's so overwhelming. If you really, it's one of those things that's easy to say, hey, he's just trying to get himself fired. When you really stop and go there, it's quite an enormous accusation to make. So I'm not willing to make it. But the mere fact that it is as reasonable to say as it is in and of itself
bottom line,
a
real
major
quickly,
problem.
If there's a team that's going to blow them away, be the Celtics. Imagine the Celtics with Porzingis on that team. Give up the picks. You got a ton of them, and that's what they're there for. There's no number 3 pick in this year's draft that come close to what Porzingis has already done on the court, at least now, at this point.
Unless they think they can get Anthony Davis. That's the one that stays out there in my mind. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. You can test drive Snapshot even if you have insurance with another company. See how much you can save before you switch. I have a 2-part question for you, Will Cain.
All right.
Part 1 is, will LeBron James ever win another NBA championship? And part 2 is, if so, will it be in Cleveland?
He will not win one in Cleveland. I'm very comfortable with that prediction. Will he ever win one in his career again? I'm going to put my money on yes. Look, but yeah, I think it's amazing, by the way. Greeny, you talk about how exciting this offseason is. And by the way, the offseason in every sport is underrated. It's when we all get to play GM and watch it play out before our eyes. I love the offseason. I love trades. I love drafts. And I think I'm like every other fan out there. Offseasons are awesome. Now, this NBA offseason is particularly awesome. That being said, it's still the same storyline. There are 2 centers of the NBA solar system, LeBron James and the Golden State Warriors. And to some extent, you can say LeBron James is the sun that even which the Golden State Warriors revolves around. Any story we do, whether or not it's Jimmy Butler to the Cavs or Paul George potentially to the Lakers or the Lakers trading Timothy Mozgov and D'Angelo Russell, every story is an offshoot of, what does LeBron do? How does this affect LeBron James? It is the only story in the NBA if you boil it down to the headwaters of the river. How can we get LeBron James, or how can we overcome LeBron James, the guy who's drug 7 straight teams to the NBA Finals? I think that is absolutely astounding. Even the Dwight Howard story, which is tangential in some way, is an offshoot of the Golden State Warriors changing the game of basketball, who, oh, by the way, did so to overcome LeBron James. It's simply amazing that one man has this effect on an entire sport.
I'm amazed at you and others that think LeBron will go to L.A. and beat Golden State, because by the time it happens, he's at least 2 to 3 years older than he is right now. And who's he matching up with in L.A.? So Paul George goes there. Great. You got Lonzo Ball. What will he be in a year? We have no idea. That's going to be better than what he has in Cleveland right now with Kyrie Irving, one of the best ball handlers there is. Kevin Love, whether they trade and get Paul George in Cleveland right now or Jimmy Butler. We're to think in 2 to 3 years, and now the Golden State guys, starting with Durant, are doing things to keep that team intact for the next 3 or 4 years, that he can build a team in L.A. that's going to beat Golden State in the West. I think that's crazy. He's got a better shot in Cleveland, A, to get to the finals, to even get to Golden State and have a chance to beat them.
How much of that is because you're come from Cleveland and you want him to stay in Cleveland?
None. I mean, it really isn't. Tell me the team he's building with the Lakers.
No. The point I made was this. Greeny asked, will he ever win an NBA championship again?
And you said yes, and not in Cleveland.
That's right.
So, L.A.
Well, we have a long career ahead of us still, Golic. I don't think he has only 2 to 3 years left in his career. It could be 5. I mean, why couldn't it be 10? Tom Brady's extending his career into his 40s. LeBron James is similarly a once-in-a-generation athlete.
How many champions have won after 32, Green?
Very few. Jordan is the last of the really great ones to win at an age older than LeBron is now.
So my rebuttal to you, Golic, is 2-part. Number one, those Warriors will be older 2 to 3 years as well.
They're all in their 20s now.
Still, they'll be older.
Will they be intact?
And you're assuming...
Will they stay together?
They'll still be in their prime.
The second part of my rebuttal is this. You're only seeing LeBron James as the player he is today, as the centerpiece of a championship team. Greeny's question was, will he ever win an NBA championship again? I get to extend that into his indefinite length of his career and whatever role he wants to play, which includes possibly taking less than the max, which includes playing for, let's say, just to pick one from a hat, a Los Angeles Lakers team centered around Lonzo Ball, another star of the future, Paul George, and role player LeBron James. I like my bet of getting one championship again over the lifetime of his career over never. I don't think mine's crazy. I think never is more crazy.
I love it as well, but it's going to be in Cleveland.
Okay. Well,
I am not buying into what everybody's saying that LeBron is all of a sudden going to be in L.A., where now he's in the same conference as Golden State, thinks he's going to put together a better team. Here's a guy that knows about his history. His history right now says he can go to 10 straight finals and be an 11 overall and maybe pull out another win, because you never know what may. He's going to get there if he stays in the East, and you never know what happens with Golden State. Is there an injury or something like that to give him a better shot to actually win a title?
I would just say LeBron's history also doesn't suggest he marries you. He dates you, even if your name is Cleveland.
That is very true.
At the age of their last championship, just to give you a handful of some of these all-time stars, we looked it up one time. Jordan was 35, so he's the one guy who was older. Kobe at his last title was 31. Bird was 29. Magic was 28.
How old was Kareem?
Well, he was much older, but that was really Magic's team.
That's what I'm saying. We can project LeBron into some role other than centerpiece of the team, a la Kareem was later in his career.
That's fair, if he wants to be that. That's the one thing Kobe never wanted to be. Remember, I thought that's what Kobe would do. I thought Kobe would get himself surrounded by a bunch of really good players where he could just be a piece to the puzzle, and he didn't want to do it.
We have no idea if LeBron will want to do that.
LeBron is a guy, he could go either way. LeBron is a guy that I could see saying, I've done everything I can do. I'm not the player I used to be.
Right.
I've got $1 billion worth of other business interests waiting for me, so I'm going to walk away at 35, 36. Or I could see him playing. I mean, Kareem played until he was 39 or 40 and was on great teams and, retired in the NBA Finals. His last game ever was in the NBA Finals. They lost, but that was his last game ever. He was 41, when they won. He was 41 when they won it, and then he played one more year because he played that last season when they got swept by Detroit. I want to make sure everybody knows you can go to the ESPYs and you can sit in Peyton Manning's seats. He's hosting, so he's giving away his tickets. Donate to the V Foundation for your chance to win at ebay.com/ESPN. This was really fun. Will Cain, thank you very much. Well done. Bet. We'll see you later and often. Mike and Mike, Will Cain is,
I'm just sorry. Brooke Lopez, Paul George, Lonzo, and LeBron is better than LeBron, Love, and Kyrie. Really?
Let's think about it. Paul George is better, certainly better than Love.
Yeah.
And
I'm a Lonzo believer.
And his
1 and 2 is LeBron and Kyrie. Would you think?
Or is that group? Is Paul George better than Kyrie Irving?
What Paul George,
he can do more things. Kyrie Irving, purely as a scorer, is a better player. But George is a trillion times better defender, and he's more versatile.
So go LeBron, Paul George, Kyrie. Right? That's 1, 2, 3.
Let's see what Lonzo is. Who the heck knows?
We don't know.
It's too soon to say.
Okay,
a lot of people think he's going to be great.
Guys don't really talk about antiperspirant. Despite that, 91% of Dove Men Plus Care users recommend it. Here's what they said.
It blocks the, perspiration, I think is the fancy word.
It's comfortable. It smells nice. My girl likes the smell.
Well, it's hard.
I think it's quite masculine. My underarms aren't the worst thing at the gym.
It's kind of like the Hoover Dam from my armpits, I guess.
Dove Men Plus Care Antiperspirant. Tough on sweat, not on skin.
Hey everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for the Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030.
The Herschel Walker trade is the one that we frequently hearken back to as the most significant trade we've ever seen. Jimmy Johnson, for those who don't remember, had a superstar running back named Herschel Walker, and he traded him at a time when he was, people thought he was the best running back in the league, and oh my God, how do you trade Herschel Walker? He got an enormous amount back in the deal, and he used all of those picks to put together the guts of teams that won 3 championships. It was a great trade.
Incredible what he did. He got players, but if they weren't on the team, he'd get draft picks. He cut the players, got the draft picks, and just built championships.
And so obviously you got to get all the picks right if you're going to make that pay off. Right. But he did, they did, and they were a dynasty in the 90s. The last real dynasty of that era of football when teams stayed together, so pre-Belichick. So that's the trade by which all these others, I think, are frequently measured. This trade the Celtics made, where they got all these picks from the Nets for Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce, at a point in their careers, and Garnett is walking into the Hall of Fame, Pierce is walking into the Hall of Fame. They're great players, and certainly Pierce went on to have some good years there and in Washington and the Clippers. But they traded away two guys who were clearly not going to be a part of anything significant they were doing anymore.
Right.
And look what they got. They got a king's ransom.
And they keep getting.
It's not over yet.
No, it's not over yet. So what we have to do is we have to wait, just like we did with Jimmy Johnson when we all thought, oh, my God, what's he doing, to, oh, there's a Super Bowl. Oh, there's a Super Bowl. And while he wasn't the coach in 96, that was the guys he all got together as Barry Switzer got the Super Bowl. So we have to see what Danny Ainge turns all this into.
For what it's worth, Danny Ainge, who I think is great. I think he has done a great job in Boston. He has been the Celtics general manager since 2003. In that time, he has drafted 38 players. Can you guess how many of the players that Danny Ainge has drafted have made an all-star team? How many of the 38 players, just take a wild guess, of the 38 players Danny Ainge has drafted, how many of them has made an all-star
20.
team? 0.
What?
Of the 38 players Danny Ainge has drafted in Boston, none of them have made the all-star team. The last Celtics draft pick to become an all-star with the Celtics was Paul Pierce.
Really?
Who was drafted in 1998.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, that is what it is. Now, he's turned those picks into a lot of different things, and they've moved around, and they've gone in other places. But the last guy who was drafted by the Celtics who became an all-star as a Celtic was Paul Pierce in 1998.
Wow.
Take it for what it's worth.
Yeah.
Again, I think he's has done a terrific job and is a terrific general manager. Mike and Mike were presented by Progressive Insurance, our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And let's fill in the blank, Mike. That's brought to you by Mahindra Tractors and Utility Vehicles. Mahindra USA, the world's #1 selling tractor. The staff has put together some sentences for us, and they have left out a word. Here we go. Number 1 on fill in the blank. New York City's worst pro sports team is blank.
I do think it's the Knicks. I mean, for how bad they are and how are they getting better, because they have a guy in Phil Jackson who's running the show who still wants to use the triangle and still thinks it can work. So what I'm thinking of is how bad you are. The Mets are sitting, 8 under 500, 31-39. Who can dig themselves out first? You know, and
that's not the way I'm interpreting the question. So now I'm going to need some clarification. I'm not interpreting the question to mean who's the worst right this minute, because right this minute the Jets are the worst. The Jets are going to be the worst team in the NFL this year. But I'm talking about who is overall, big picture, the worst team, and that it's the Knicks, and it's not even close.
It's the Knicks, yes.
The Mets were in the World Series 2 years ago.
Yeah.
The Yankees have been in the playoffs repeatedly as recently as 2 years ago and won the World Series in 2009. The Nets were in the NBA Finals twice since the last time the Knicks were even remotely relevant. The Knicks have won one playoff series since the Nets were in the NBA Finals. What team am I forgetting? The Rangers won the Stanley Cup. No, that would have been before that, but they were in the Cup final against the Kings however many years ago that was, 2 or 3 years ago. So, I mean, I think it's when you look at the Knicks and all of the built-in advantages they should theoretically have, and the fact that they have won one playoff series in 16 years or whatever it is, I don't even think it's close.
I agree. I think it's the Knicks.
Next, fill in the blank. Golic, it would be blank if the Knicks actually traded Kristaps Porzingis.
I don't even know. Appalling? I mean, I mean,
it would be
a shot to the senses. I mean, unfathomable. I mean, pick a big word. Pick a quarter word. I mean, for how, to me, I think we're now. You have to wait and see what they got in return, obviously. But at some point, you got to stick with. I mean, you have a 21-year-old who fits the league now, who's a really, really good player, and that's who you build around, not get rid of. So
you did that one better than I was just going to go with stunning. I mean, it's not very creative, but it just, I think it says what needs to be said. Next, the word or phrase that best sums up Dwight Howard's career is blank.
Unfulfilled?
Bomani got me thinking about that a little differently when he was talking about it. I believe Dwight Howard's going to the Hall of Fame. Can you say that a player's career is unfulfilled? You look at his numbers over the course of time, you forget sometimes how long he's been in the league.
Been in the league a long time.
I'm going to say I am going to agree with you, though, because he never developed into the offensive player that I thought he had the capability to be.
And I think a lot of people say that's on him, that he didn't put in the time to do it. I don't know that for a fact. This is when you go on people that you trust, that who are in the know of what his abilities could have been and what were never realized.
For his career, Dwight Howard's average field goal distance is 3.5 feet from the basket. Now, again, you're going to make as many layups and dunks as he has in his career and putbacks.
Yeah.
It's going to bring that average down, and he's not a guy who's out there shooting threes. What were you going to say?
As you see the game changing, sometimes you have to change your game with it. And he never.
I don't know that he has the body to change his game. I mean, was
did
he a guy?
Try? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. He's
sort of your classic NBA big. He's the last one. I mean, he's the last successful one. He was never like. He's not an historically great player. He looked like he might have been at one time. He was going to be the next in the line of great centers in the NBA, and I think he isn't that. His name doesn't go with the great centers in the NBA. And his career happened at exactly the time when great centers in the NBA stopped being a thing. Next, the rumored trade that gives the Cavs the best chance to compete with the Warriors is...
I'm saying Jimmy Butler because of his defensive side of the ball.
Over Paul George.
Yes. And strictly for that. Now both can be obviously offensive firepowers, and I know Paul George can play some defense, but because it said compete with the Warriors, that's where I think Jimmy Butler could have a big impact.
I think that's probably right. I think if you told me I could have one or the other of those two guys, but it's a toss-up. I mean, I don't want to cheat on the question.
It's tough. Same age. I mean, it's
so similar. It's very tough for me to say. I think either one of them gives them a real shot. I mean, a legit shot. Finally, ice cream that tastes like pizza is
crap.
Blank. What?
Crap. Just don't do it.
Yeah, I mean, you heard my opinion. I'm going to say I think it's bordering on a criminal offense. I think it's something we might want to consider calling in the authorities.
It's horrific.
I think it should be against the law.
I'm so with you on this one, and rarely anything that has to do with food am I with you. But I'm with you on this one.
I hate when you do this, but you said something in which you were right, and it makes me rethink my position. But you have to be willing to do that in life. So I was saying if you reinvented, for the rest of the country joining us, if you invented the game of baseball today, if Abner Doubleday was alive right this minute and came out and said, hey, guys, got this great idea, baseball, bases 90 feet apart and a bat, and you throw it and all this, and we came up with the game of baseball today, the notion that the means of retaliation for something that is deemed an inappropriate act would be throw a pitch as hard as you can and hit someone with it, my initial contention was no one would think that was a good idea. Mm-hmm. But then you made a good point, which is it might develop into that over the course of time. And as I thought about it more, I realized you were right. The reason they probably got there was when acts took place on the field that made people mad, the initial means of retaliation was probably punching each other in the face. And they ultimately arrived at a point, don't even bother with that. Don't bother hitting him. Don't do anything like that. I'll take care of it. I'm just going to plunk this guy. He'll know. That'll be our message. And that's probably where it started. It probably did start with that.
You would find the way in that sport to police, to take care of what needed to be taken care of. So I still think it would have evolved to that. As I said, just because it was always done to a slow runner, a stare at the home run, I'm not saying everything deserves that. I think some of it is absolutely ridiculous. But in the case of physicality of something to get back at, if that's the way, that's the way. I don't have a problem with it.
Damn it, you're right, and I'm wrong. Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Michael Vick on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line coming up a little more than 10 minutes. Okay, I like this story.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like frivolous lawsuits. Who among us likes frivolous lawsuits?
Right.
Besides, I guess, some lawyers. But I don't know that this is frivolous. Tell me what you think of this gentleman. His name is Russell Beckman.
Russell Beckman.
He is a 56-year-old high school social studies teacher.
Okay.
He lives in Mount Pleasant, Wisconsin, and he is a crazy Packer fan.
There you go.
He goes to he has a season ticket holder for the Packers. and he goes to all the games wearing a Packers jersey, and he's got like these green and gold beads that he wears to all these games. He's a great fan. He is also, because for those who don't know, Wisconsin and Illinois share a border, and they're near each other. He's also a Bears season ticket holder. Now, I have no idea how many Bears games he goes to, but he is a Bears season ticket holder. As a Bears season ticket holder, he earned the reward of standing on the sideline during pregame warm-ups for a game through a point system for season ticket holders. He's owned a personal seat license at Soldier Field since 2003.
Right.
So they sent him an invitation. Come down. You've been a season ticket holder. You've accrued a certain number of points, whatever the program was. Come down to the field. He goes down to the field before a game between the Bears and the Packers at Soldier Field for this experience as a Bears season ticket holder, wearing his Packers jersey and his Packers beads. And the Bears refused to allow him on the field. They refused to allow him onto the field because he's wearing the Packers stuff. Beckman said, "It's the biggest rivalry. The excitement is the Bears and Packers fans together representing their teams. I could have worn something nondescript, but I'm there for the Packers-Bears game. I feel like the Bears are diminishing that." Beckman has filed a lawsuit. He is representing himself, and all he is asking for is legal fees in return. He's not demanding millions of dollars or anything else. He is not suing for financial damages except to recoup his legal fees. He simply wants the Bears to reverse their policy and allow him to take part in on-field experiences at Soldier Field wearing his Packers gear. What do you think?
Did it say anything that he couldn't wear Packers gear?
You know, I'm reading the story in the Chicago Tribune. A Bears spokesman said the team does not comment on legal matters. He earned the reward with a ticket point system.
Right.
He wants to secure the seats to enjoy blah, blah, blah. It doesn't say if it says that.
Basically what happened is the Bears found themselves in a situation that nobody would expect to happen, right? You're rewarding a season ticket holder of that team to come down on the sidelines for pregame. You're assuming that a season ticket holder for the Bears, the 49ers, the Browns, or whatever, is a fan of that team, right? That would be the assumption. So you would expect them to either not wear any affiliation or that of the Bears. So they got, for lack of a better term, they got caught with their pants down on this one. And I think you had to let the guy down there, and then I think they do change their policy. And the Bears, or whoever does it now, says that our season ticket holder, you won this, you can come down on the field. The only thing you can't do is you can't wear the opposing team's colors. I would have no problem with that.
I'm reading down the story here. It says, in August of 2016, his lawsuit alleges he used his points for 3 people to stand on the sideline before the game between the Bears and Packers. Less than a week before the game, he received an email from the Bears stating fans could not partake in the event while wearing opposing team gear.
Oh, well, there he goes. He's done. That's it. He's done. Go ahead. You're not winning anything. They said it to him. He may not like the policy, but he was told, and he still did it. I didn't think anyone was said. That part of it ends it, right? That ends it.
Well, I mean, he is suing because he wants them to change the policy.
Oh,
he believes that as a season ticket holder, that's what he's doing.
Okay.
He's suing because he wants the right to be able to stand on the sideline.
Good luck.
As he has earned through his accrued ticket point system while wearing the opposing team's jersey.
You're not winning.
You don't think?
No, not a
That's
chance.
the policy.
Right.
So he's not attacking. He's not saying he wasn't informed of this.
Right.
He's attacking the policy itself.
Go ahead and attack the policy.
What do you think of the policy?
I think it's fine to ask you not to wear the colors of the opposing team. I have no problem with that, and then you can choose whether you want to do it or not.
Once again, everything in life can be taken back to a Seinfeld episode.
Yes, it can. I know
when
where you're
Elaine
going.
wore the Orioles hat in George Steinbrenner's box.
Invited to the Yankees
and
box.
It turned into a whole thing. Yep. You can't do it. But I think I like the fact that he's not suing for emotional distress or millions of dollars. He just wants the right to be allowed to do it.
And he's not going to win.
Let's get some sort of legal analyst in on this. I think it's interesting. We'll be right back.
America, it's time for some straight talk. You love your phone. Look at you. You hardly put it down. But you don't love that expensive wireless plan, do you? So what if I told you can keep that phone network and number 2 for a lot less? Well, this is me telling you. It's time to switch to Straight Talk, guys. Bring your own phone and get unlimited plans starting at just $45 a month on America's largest, most dependable 4G LTE networks. Straight Talk Wireless. Only at Walmart.
Savings may vary. Please refer always to the latest terms and conditions of service at straighttalk.com.
Here we are. We're Mike and Mike. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests, like Michael Vick, who'll join us in just a moment, appear on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. So many different interesting things going on this morning. NBA offseason. You know, it's funny because I've said every day this week, I've opened the show by saying the NBA offseason is so much more interesting than its regular season. And I really mean that as my own little dig, because you know how frustrated I am.
How frustrated you are
with the regular season between the tanking and the resting and everything else. But then Will Cain, who you just heard there in the open, sort of made the point. Have we arrived at a point where almost every sports offseason is more interesting than the regular season? When do we get more into football than around the NFL draft?
Listen, I agree, because at some point during every season, teams fall by the wayside, and you don't have that team to really root for anymore. But in the offseason, everybody's in play.
It's like everybody's Super Bowl is the NFL draft. And this year in particular, the NBA draft is so deep and good that people are that into it. And the hot stove stuff in basketball has become so incredibly important and interesting. Isn't it remarkable? We may have arrived at a point in sports where the most interesting time of the year is when the games themselves are not being played.
And we still have the NBA awards show
to look forward to. You know what else we have to look forward to?
What's that?
Next week, it is the launch game of the American Flag Football League. That's the AFFL, the newest professional sports league, the first to bring flag football to that level. The launch game is taking place June 27th in San Jose, California. Michael Vick is an advisor to the AFFL, so he will be involved in that game and beyond the launch. And obviously, this is a fascinating time for flag football in this country, Mike, because of all the questions and concerns about hitting.
It is. I mean, you look in basketball, what has been started with the 3-on-3 league.
Yeah.
You look at, and you're right, flag football is becoming huge in youth football as the stepping stone if young men and women want to move on then to the tackle game. But flag football has grown so much. You know what else has grown? I mean, it's similar in the fact that there's no hitting and no pads. 7-on-7 is monstrous in high school right now, even below that and high school. This is developing players, so now you have a league that brings that all in without the hitting in the flag football. So I'm going to be really, really interested to see where this thing goes because it's very popular now.
The launch is next week, June 27th in San Jose. Michael Vick will be a part of that, and he joins us this morning on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Mike Vick, Mike and Mike here. How you been?
I'm doing good. How about you guys?
Doing well, Mike.
We're doing well. Let's start with this. There's obviously a million different things to talk to you about, but let's start with this. How did you get involved in this, and what are your expectations for what this can be?
A great friend of mine reached out to me about 5 months ago and asked me would I want to be involved in, my thoughts and my participation. And I had to think real long and hard about it because, playing in the National Football League for so long, that's all I know. All I know is to put on a helmet, put on shoulder pads, go out on the gridiron and do what I do. And, it's a great game. But like you guys said, 7-on-7 is taking over. I think flag is a great opportunity for guys to further their careers if they don't get the extension or the contracts or the longevity that they want. It's another opportunity for them to extend their careers. And for me to get involved in it and think it through and real hard, I thought it would be something different. I thought it's not innovative. This game has been going on for a long time in terms of 7-on-7. So I thought it'd be a great opportunity to do something different and, have guys know that it'll be another opportunity, another outlet to further their careers.
As far as the game, let's start there. I think through everybody's life they've played some sort of flag football or not, whether it's a pickup game or when they were younger. Is it basically the same thing? Seven-man side? I mean, and is it basically when we think of flag football, are those the basic rules that we're talking about here?
Yeah, the basic rules of flag football, and when you think about 7-on-7, as soon as the receiver gets the ball, he gets tagged or the whistle's blown. In any sport, whether it's whether it's college, whether it's the National Football League, or whether it's high school, now it's just one extra element. You have to grab the flag, or if not, guys get yards out the catch or yards coming out of the backfield. So it's an interesting dynamic. It's going to be different. I'm real anxious to see what it's going to look like, what it's going to entail, and very glad that I got involved in this and anxious to see where it's going to go.
We're talking to Michael Vick. What kind of players was the league looking for? Are you getting a bunch of former players, NFLers, college, high school guys who just missed those leagues and have never played? What type of players are you getting?
We were looking for guys coming out of college. We were looking for former NFL guys, guys who are just athletes. You can be in the military. You can be just a standard citizen. And if you got talent, if you feel like you can play, there's trials, and this is the trial game. So for the most part, we got former NFL guys. So that's going to be very interesting. And I think that'll be great for the fans to see if guys still got it. So I'm very excited about it. The rosters are all set and ready to go, and we got some good football players that's going to be out there on the field.
Information is at AmericanFlag.football, where you can see any number of things and also buy tickets for the launch game again, which is next week, next Tuesday in San Jose. One of the reasons I'm most fascinated by this, Michael, is with all the increased attention on head injuries in pro football, the notion that more and more young people, kids, might gravitate to this sport because there is there won't be all of that hitting. I'm just curious, through your career, which began at a time when no one was talking about this and ended at a time where it was a big part of the conversation, how cognizant were you of it, of head injuries? You were a guy who ran a lot, you got hit a lot. How cognizant were you of concussions and head injuries during your career?
Honestly, during my career in the first 7-8 years, I really wasn't concerned about concussions. I didn't think about it. The awareness wasn't there in terms of the league, and I think the National Football League has done a great job in terms of player safety and wanting to make sure that the concussion protocol was A1, and I think they've done a great job of that. You can barely finish a game if you show any symptoms or any signs of concussions, and flag football is going to be easier. It's going to be simplified. It's safe, and like I said, it gives you another outlet in terms of not playing in the National Football League. If guys come out of college and they don't make it, because 90% of the guys playing college football won't make it, and I think this will give them a chance to continue to dream. It'll give them a chance to still be visible, and I think you can't beat that. It's football in a different form, but at the same time, it's the game.
You are hard to tackle. Do you think anybody's going to be able to pull your flag when you're running?
Well, I'm just coming off an ankle surgery 3 months ago, so I'm still recovering from that, but still trying to get my ankle stronger. So I don't know what my mobility will be like, so I plan on just treating it like 7-on-7 and just lighting up any defense that they put in front of me. Because I was real good at that when I was in the National Football League and in college. So it's just going to be fun to throw the ball around. And just being honest, the fans, they love to see the passing game. And I love to see it too. So, that's the exciting part about this. It's passing, it's no tackling, and maybe no handoffs depending on what the plays may look like. But at the end of the day, I still might try to bust a move or two. I just don't know how it's going to go.
Michael Vick is with us. He has the highest career rushing average of any player in NFL history, 7 yards per rush, the highest career average of anyone who ever played the game. Michael Vick is with us. I remember at the height of your stardom in the NFL, we had Brian Urlacher on one time, who at that time was one of the fastest and most athletic linebackers in the league. And I remember we asked him, if Michael Vick is running up the sideline, what are you doing? He said, I'm going to do my best to take an angle at him. Who was the one guy? Who was the one guy you least wanted coming after you? If you broke into the open and you're running up the sideline, what one player during your career were you most concerned might catch you or might get an angle and be able to do something with you running up the sideline?
Well, for me, it was always Brian Dawkins. It seems like he was one individual who always knew where I was going to be at all times. And Jim Johnson, the great, was always game planning to stop me. And for whatever reason, Brian Dawkins always found a way to put his helmet on me and make sure that I was aware of where he was at all times. And it was so fun to play against him, but at the same time, it was scary. But I had a great time. And Philly was always the team that I could never get past to get to the Super Bowl. But, hey, way, it was all because of one guy. I think multiple guys, but Brian Dawkins was really the guy who spearheaded everything on that defense.
Yeah, he will hit you and you will feel it, no doubt about it. Michael Vick talking with us, signed on to play in the launch game of the American Flag Football League. The launch game takes place June 27th in San Jose. Before the Super Bowl, you wrote a great piece for the Players Tribune describing your journey over the past decade from, time in prison to the end of your football career. So over that time, I mean, what did you get out of writing that and laying it all out there, and what have you taken away from all of it?
It was just a moment where I wanted to be as open and honest as possible. I felt like I left a couple voids in the city of Atlanta in terms of football and what I could do on and off the field. And it was just a moment where I was so proud of the team and the organization and where they went in the city. I didn't have anything to do with nothing in terms of their journey last season, but I just wanted to show, my respects to everybody and just really recognizing the hard work that had been put in over the years and whether the team, how far the team it came, and the city in general, and just the love. And when I go back, how they treat me, and I just thought it was a great time to release the piece. I didn't know it was going to blow up the way it did, but it was certainly a great opportunity and a great time to do so. And just some things I wanted to get off my chest, and I'm glad I was able to do so.
How do you think, for the most part, you will be remembered for your time in the NFL?
I think for the most part I'll be remembered as a guy who, just gave it my all at every single down, and probably could have played longer if I wanted to, if I would have protected myself a little more, but that just wasn't in my DNA. Had a lot of opportunities and a lot of potential. I played on some good teams and played with a great group of guys, and you always see, if you cut on the film, me giving it everything I had, whether it was 1st and 10 or 3rd and 1. You was going to get everything that I could give, on the field. So it was just it was an exciting time for me in my career. I'm glad that I accomplished the dream that I wanted to accomplish in my life. And I think at the end of the day, when people look back, they'll say this guy was one of the guys who, revolutionized the position, made the quarterback position more relevant, and just did some different things. So I think that's good enough. If I get enough kids, want to continue to look at me as a role model in whatever way, shape, or form, and idolize the things that I was able to accomplish on and off the field, I think that's most important.
Again, if you're interested in tickets, the AmericanFlag.football is where you can get tickets for the AFFL launch game, again, next Tuesday in San Jose. Michael, good luck with this. Nice talking to you. Enjoy the summer. I'm sure we'll see you again.
All right, thank you. I want to encourage the fans to come out on the 27th, man. It's going to be a great day. Looking forward to it. Thanks for having me.
Good fun. Thank you. Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. That's Michael Vick with us there. Such an interesting, the career arc with the ups and the extraordinary downs.
We did a Heisman commercial with him.
Yeah.
A Heisman commercial with him.
Correct.
And
hands on the Heisman.
Then to see where the career has gone, obviously the jail time with the dogfighting and coming back from that, and the what he felt from a lot of people, the fans, the protests and such, of what he had to overcome, and certainly injuries at that point going forward as well. But what a career. The ups and downs of that have been absolutely incredible.
He's a perfect example, in my personal opinion. This is where you're going to get into an area that some people are going to get angry. When people do bad things, really, really bad things, as he did, there are two things that I think you need, people expect to see happen. One is there to be a price to be paid, and he most certainly paid a price.
He did.
He went to jail for multiple years, and he lost an enormous amount of money.
Yes, and what he did was horrific.
And he doesn't pretend otherwise. No. That leads you to the second part, which is, for me, and I'm not comparing what he did to some of the other things we typically talk about, but it's just you put all of these really bad things into a pot and say, when you do something that goes well beyond, speeding.
Right.
You want to see a person who genuinely seems to understand the magnitude of what they did and is doing what he or she can to make it better, to make amends. In my opinion, I know there are people who will never forgive
They'll
him.
never forgive
When they
him.
hear
Right,
his name,
right.
anytime you or I, you know this, you can do a speaking engagement, his name comes up. There are people out there, and I'm not telling you have to.
Absolutely not.
However you feel, you feel. But in my opinion, I think he has done an extraordinary job of showing true remorse and contrition for what he's done and for trying to now be part of the solution to a problem, of recognizing that this horrible industry, I don't even know if industry is the right word, but this phenomenon that exists out there that was infinitely more common than I had any idea it was until this happened, you know, the ways he has gone about trying to make that better. Because you know the second you put him on, you're just going to get flooded with these tweets.
Without a doubt.
And that's all they're going to talk about. Again, not my job to tell you what you should or shouldn't think.
What you
but
want.
that's my opinion.
And he seemed to, I wasn't there. I don't know all he's done, you know, the remorsefulness and the sincerity and all that. He to your point, he seems to have, and he seems to have gone about showing actions toward that as well. And everybody gets to decide however they want to decide. He paid his debt, what he was supposed to society. He got another opportunity, which he is allowed to do. Someone has to give them the opportunity. He was given the opportunity to continue to go and to continue to play. And everybody can feel how you want. I agree with you. He seemed to be remorseful, and he certainly seemed to do all the right things. But I wasn't there. I don't know everything that he did. What I do know was horrific. What the crimes that he went to jail for, and that's what you do hope. I agree with you. You hope that there is remorse for that, and you hope that you can try and be part of the solution. You know, since for that time being and what you got convicted for, you were part of the problem.
There was he has done a lot of things, and I want to look them up here because I remember looking into this when he signed with the Jets.
Well, that's the one
thing.
He
has not just talked about it. He's done a lot of things.
It's the one thing that you do. You want to. We always say you can say whatever you want, but what do your actions say? You know, you can sit there and say, I'm going to do better. This was wrong. You can say it all you want, but what are the actions? And he certainly has put together actions that would say, you know, he was remorseful for what he did. Still, we'll continue to say there are people that will never forgive him, and that is absolutely your right. But at least in what we talk about is doing things to show that you were wrong and putting, you know, your actions where your mouth was and not just saying it. He certainly seems to have done a lot of that.
I'm not finding it as quickly as I wanted to here, but he has definitely done things. He hasn't just talked about being part of the solution. He has actually done them, and I will find them in the next break. Meantime, I was also thinking I was primarily thinking as we were talking to him, and I just saw some of the reaction that still comes. The National Football League is a place that is made up of the greatest athletes in the world, right? You're talking about, professional sports.
Right.
You're talking about every single player in that league, for the most part, is a freakishly gifted athlete. You don't get that. I could have started working the day of my second birthday towards playing in the National Football League, and it wasn't going to happen because the price of admission into playing in the NFL is freakish God-given athletic ability. That you just have to have that or you don't have a chance regardless. So to stand out from even that collection of people is so hard to do. Name the player that you've ever watched play who just seemed so much more dynamically athletic than anyone else on the field in the NFL.
Randall Cunningham.
Was he? Was Cunningham?
Randall was an incredible athlete.
As much so as Vick?
No. You just said who was an incredible athlete. Michael Vick may have been the best athlete I've seen playing the position of quarterback.
But he looked like he was operating at a different speed.
From that position, from an athletic standpoint, I don't know if there would be a better athletically gifted quarterback. Now, you start to get pocket passing in there, and you start the things, you tear them down a little bit.
That's all we're talking about.
We're talking about speed, agility, quickness. Nobody was faster than him. His quickness was ridiculous. But you're asking me who were the athletic guys that I've seen play or played with. Randall was certainly one of them. Randall wasn't as fast as Vick wasn't, but Randall was, we used to call him Gumby. You know, the way he could take hits and twist and turn and not go down. His arm was ridiculous, the whip that he had. So he
could
was
punt too, couldn't he? Punt?
Yeah. Well, he punted at UNLV. Kenny Mayne backed him up as the punter.
You know who I would put in that category? I'm not just talking about quarterbacks now. I'm just talking about players. I would put Randy Moss in that category.
Randy Moss.
When Randy Moss first set foot on an NFL field, he played at Marshall, so most of us didn't see him play in college. And then he stepped foot on the field in the NFL, and there was a Monday night game in his rookie year. I remember week 2, 3, 4, whatever it was. And you watched him go, and you say to yourself, it's like it's a video game, and he is operating at a different speed than everybody else is. And yet, what is he, 6'2", 6'3"? I mean,
6'4".
6'4". He's
6'4",
so tall.
340.
I mean, Vick is short. Vick is shorter than me.
Yeah, he is.
We did a TV commercial you referenced. I'm taller than he is.
Right.
Moss is tall.
Moss
really
is tall. I mean, there are guys that you just look at and say, they're way better athletically and as a player, the Reggie Whites of the world, the Lawrence Taylors of the world, more guys, again, that I've seen play that you just are so much better. But, again, you throw in athletic ability as well on what these people were able to do. It's incredible, and Vick was right there. Vick was right there at the top of the list for the position he played as athletic or better than anyone that's ever played that position from an athletic standpoint.
There was a time when the answer to the question, who's the one guy you would pay the price of admission to go see?
It was Michael Vick.
Him.
Yep.
He was that guy.
Yes, he was.
He was as exciting a player as they had in that sport as you can think of in recent memory. Who is that now? I'm being asked. Who is that right now? Who's the one guy you? Let's break on that thought, and we'll come back and we'll give a thought on it. And there's a million different things to get to today, and obviously all the basketball. But who's the one guy in pro football that you're paying the price of admission to go see?
Guys don't really talk about antiperspirant. Despite that, 91% of Dove Men Plus Care users recommend it. Here's what they said.
It blocks the, perspiration, I think is the fancy word.
It's comfortable. It smells nice. My girl likes the smell.
Well, I don't know. It's hard. I think it's quite masculine. My underarms aren't the worst thing at the gym.
It's kind of like the Hoover Dam from my armpits, I guess.
Dove Men Plus Care antiperspirant. Tough on sweat, not on skin.
Hey everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
And I found this information I was looking for on Michael Vick. Jeremy Fowler did a story on him in late 2015. Vick was scheduled to meet at that time with Pennsylvania lawmakers in support of Pennsylvania House Bill 1516, known as the Pets in Cars Bill, which would give police officers authority to rescue dogs and cats from cars due to unsafe temperatures, right? Here's his quote. I really like this quote. Not only do you like the fact that he's doing that, I like the quote. He says, I know that I'm an unlikely advocate. I was part of the problem. Now my perspective can help reach people that activists can't reach. I can help others become agents of change. He also publicly supported the Animal Fighting Spectator Prohibition Act, which makes it a federal crime to attend an organized animal fight. That was signed into law by President Obama in February of 2014. And he said, I just try to make it right after what transpired. The best thing to do was make amends for what I did. I can't take it back. The only thing I can do is influence the masses of kids from going down the same road I went down. That's why I work with the Humane Society and affecting a lot of kids' lives and saving a lot of animals. We've had a lot of progress. We've been able to change some laws and do some things I'm proud of. I never thought I'd be doing that.
Listen, and it's great. What he did was horrific, and I'm not going to lie. I have a hard time getting past it. A hard time. I'm such a dog person, but I do appreciate the fact of all that he was trying to do and is trying to do for that, not just sitting back and saying, well, I did this, I paid my price for it, now I move on, that he's actively trying to help others understand what he did was wrong and that it is wrong. Doesn't mean I didn't have a hard time and don't have a hard time looking past what happened. But yeah. He has been very proactive, and that is obviously a good thing.
Yeah. So that was Michael Vick, and then the conversation from the football side of the Michael Vick is if you were to pay the price of admission to watch one guy play right now in football, who would it be?
Is it Odell? Is
That's
he
who
the
I
guy?
wrote down. I wrote OBJ on my little piece of paper here.
I'm just trying to think of who the others would. We're getting a lot of people naming players from other eras. We asked now, in the game today.
Was it Cam Newton a year ago?
His
was it RG3 5 years ago for one season? Is it Zeke Elliott?
Is it Le'Veon Bell?
Is it in a totally different way? I mean, we're having a different conversation. I mean, is it someone like Aaron Rodgers? I mean, Aaron Rodgers does things routinely in games.
He does.
That make you. He's maybe not quite as athletically gifted as someone like Vick was.
Oh no!
But he uses his athleticism and his ridiculous talent and skill in a way that.
And he touches the ball every play. That's the difference. Odell has to have the ball thrown to him,
right? And
then when he catches it, it can be amazing what he does. But I'm
going to say Aaron Rodgers is high on the list.
Odell is catching, a great game, double-digit passes, mostly maybe between 5 and 10. Aaron Rodgers is throwing 30 passes, 4 to 35 passes a game, and some you're just like, how the hell did he do that?
Yeah.
So just by sheer volume, it could be someone like that more than Odell who could give you a couple of those plays, and you're like, wow.
Mike, I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
This is unrelated. You can put this up on our social monitor over there because Patrick, who does our social for us today, had an idea. And that is we all enjoyed Stugatz doing the Paul Feinbaum yesterday. And so they shaved his head in the way like Paul's is, and they put the glasses on him, and they put the suit on him. And he looks like Feinbaum.
Yes, he does.
And then Patrick came over to me, and he flipped me a picture, which I just put up on Instagram. So if you're not watching on TV right now, you can find it at ESPN Greeny on Instagram. Does he look more like, I'm going to hand you my phone, does he look more like Feinbaum or more like Jeff Van Gundy?
I think it looks more like Van Gundy.
Me too.
Yeah.
I think he is actually the spitting image of Jeff Van Gundy.
They were talking about it when he was doing that and trying to be Feinbaum. They were talking about Van Gundy, and they were talking about...
Oh, that came up at the time?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
And they were talking about Dickie V as well. I think it's more like Van Gundy than even Feinbaum.
Yes, I agree. I go Van Gundy one. Dickie V doesn't wear glasses.
No.
So,
He did. I mean, he has. There are pictures around here.
Well, in the earliest days of ESPN, he had those huge glasses.
He did,
but he doesn't wear them anymore. So it's not quite the same. Now, I don't see Dickie V here.
No, I see Van Gundy and I see Feinbaum.
I see Van Gundy 1, Feinbaum 2.
Me too.
That's my opinion. All right, let me ask you this.
Okay.
What exactly is, and I don't mean the rules and the game, what is flag football's place in things now is the way I want to ask this question. At a time when the game of football, not pro football, the game of football is under a little bit of attack. Right. We all know that. And depending on your perspective on it, you can think whatever you think of that. But the concerns about head injury have created an issue for football.
Right.
Let's define it however we wish. Flag football, which of course is not football.
Right.
And I don't know that it's a way. I don't know how long you can play flag. If your goal is to be an NFL player, can you be a flag football player up until high school? Can you be a flag football player beyond it? What exactly is flag's place in the game of football and its future?
There are NFL players who never played until high school. There are not a ton of them, but there are. For whatever reason that they didn't play until high school. But for the most part, obviously, you are playing, through grade school before you get to high school. Flag football is in a lot of cases a stepping stone to the next level of tackle football. So now what we've seen youth football go through, and we had Bill Polian on to talk about it, and my wife obviously a big part of this is as well, so I've been getting to kind of see the inside of it, of flag football. Then you can go to what they're calling rookie football, which is less guys on a field playing half a field in pads and it's tackle, but there are different rules, no three-point stances. So it's like when you go from T-ball, you have machine pitch, and then you have coach pitch before you have player pitch.
Right.
It's like another step. And quite honestly, I think Little League flag football should almost have coach being the quarterback. I think because now you'll get better passes and you can get them to all the kids. You can really spread the ball around so everybody can get involved. I think they should look into that, quite honestly.
But what age are we talking about?
So you're talking young, obviously a young. Now tackle football starts very young, 4th, 5th grade, even younger than that.
In my town, I believe it's 5th grade.
But you can also, depending on the town, their flag football is way more available than it's ever been. Now these are leagues. I don't know how. I'm not going to lie. I don't know. I don't think there are high school leagues of football. I could be completely wrong. There very well could be. If you just want to play football, it depends on what you want to do. Do you want to play football? Do you want to play football with the intent of playing high school football and tackle and maybe going on to college and then some possibly? Well, at some point you're going to have to obviously put pads on and play. If you just want to go out there and have a good time and don't want to do the hitting, have looked at all the research and have decided I don't want to put pads on or I don't want my kids to, then you could play flag football. I personally don't know how far up the ladder it goes from organized leagues and such. I'm going to assume, and it's wrong of me to assume, there are high schools that will have that, some form of it that you can do. But for the most part, what flag football had been thought of is a stepping stone to tackle. Now you have the next one of rookie football. So flag football, rookie football, tackle football, 11-man football, more along those lines, of more of the stepping stones to it. And you can learn a lot of great things in flag football, no doubt about it. Now, there's no line play, so from that aspect, you're not, the blocking and all that. But as far as catching the ball, hand-eye coordination, route running, defense, covering people, you could certainly learn a lot. And then it's a matter of where you want to take it. Do you play that? Do you feel now like you want to go to the level of putting pads on? It's up to you, but it's a great outlet. And if that's all you want to do, so be it. There's absolutely, positively nothing wrong with that at all. It's still great fun. It gets you out there moving. The bottom line, especially for kids, you're out there moving. You're out there doing something.
Yeah.
So, I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all.
I've always thought of, maybe wrongly, flag football as sort of its own activity. I never thought of flag football as something that you would do in preparation for a career in quote-unquote real football. I always thought of that as just sort of a separate activity for kids who didn't want to play football, kind of like ultimate frisbee.
It could be, and Chris is texting me saying there are high schools do have flag football.
They do.
So
they have
flag
football teams in high school.
A lot of it obviously is the parents, because flag
is
football.
Is there blocking? Forgive me, I've never seen this. Is there blocking?
Normally there is not blocking. Normally there's not. Now, I've seen some flag football where there's a center and two other linemen, and you get guys that can rush, and there is some sort of blocking. Other than that, it's
because they're not wearing pads, right? You're just wearing.
So for the most part, no. Like in what Michael Vick was talking about, there's going to be no blocking. You'll get X amount of time, I think, to throw the ball or the quarterback. I'm not sure of all the rules of that, but for the most part, no. That's the whole idea of it. Is there's no contact. Again, it's akin to, in my eyes, 7-on-7, which is becoming hugely popular for guys who are playing tackle 11-man football to get a lot of extra work without the hitting involved and work on routes and passing and all of that. So I've always thought of flag football as a stepping stone, but it seems if there, as my wife said, if there are high school leagues, you can take it as far as you want to go, if that's where you want to go. And a lot of it at that young age is up to the parent. If I don't want my kid in pads yet, if you feel that way, that's fine. You put them in flag, and do they go up from there, or do they stay? It's a personal choice, but no doubt flag football is growing big time.
Something I find interesting, and I would bet that a lot of parents at minimum out there find it interesting as well. It's been a really good show today, and if you missed any of it, you're in luck. You can still hear it. So, for example, in hour number 2, we had in our studio, we had Chad Ford with a great breakdown of the NBA trade deadline stuff and the draft. Then we had Bomani Jones with great perspective. Hour 3, Will Cain. Hour 4 here, Michael Vick, and a whole lot more. You can listen to any and all 4 hours of Mike and Mike on demand in the ESPN app. You can also subscribe to the Best of Mike and Mike podcast. All available. Listen tab of the ESPN app. All right. Are the Knicks going to trade Kristaps Porzingis?
I don't think there's any way they're trading him. No.
So why is this out there?
I don't know. I said it at 6 o'clock this morning, Eastern time, and I say it now. I don't know. I don't know the answer to why it's out there. Because if it wasn't started by the Knicks, wouldn't the Knicks be shutting it down, saying, this dude's not on the trade block? I've always said, I understand you answer the phone and you listen because you never know what somebody may offer. But if it wasn't started by the Knicks and it's out there that he's on the trading block and the Knicks don't want to trade him, why would you not shut that down and say, this guy, we build around this guy, we're not trading him? Are they mad at him because he didn't, come to the exit meeting and hasn't talked to them? And listen, they're a mess, okay? They're a mess. And a lot of their mess, they need to look in the mirror for their mess. So before they start saying we're going to teach this 21-year-old a lesson, start looking at the garbage that you're doing over and that organization, and quit messing that up before you think some people's minds, excuse me, they're trying to teach Porzingis a lesson by not coming to the exit meeting. They have a lot more issues than worrying about what the 21-year-old did, who, oh, by the way, is your best player.
For what it's worth, Chad Ford said Porzingis would be the overwhelming number 1 pick if he were in this year's draft, and that he, Chad, wouldn't trade Porzingis for the Celtics number 3 this year, plus the Nets first-round pick next year, which could turn out to be number 1. How about the rest of it? What are we making of Paul George, Jimmy Butler, LeBron's future in Cleveland, all of that? Is that getting resolved?
I'm still pumping the brakes on the whole LeBron to the West Coast after next year. I'm just... this goes back to if you're LeBron, we sit there and we talk about, Joe Montana and Terry Bradshaw 4-0 in a Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
Tom Brady, when he was 4-2, that's not as good. That's not as good. Well, wait a minute. He was in 6 Super Bowls.
Right.
So if LeBron makes it next year, he's with Cleveland, makes it to the finals again, and then leaves. Even if he were to stay in Cleveland for 4 more years, 3-4 more years, and go to 11-12 finals, but was 3-9, is that better than 3-9 by going to the West, out in the West and never even making it to the finals? What's better? Will he be remembered more for? Well, yeah, he got to the finals, but he couldn't win it. Maybe some people will say that. Then, oh, by the way, when he tried to go to the West, he couldn't even get to the finals and knock off the team he was losing to in the finals. So what's the difference?
Well, you've set up – there is the way you've set that up, then yes, of course, staying in Cleveland is better. But I don't know that that's true, and I don't know that he thinks it.
To sit there and start to think that – and what we've heard – LeBron James is going to go Hollywood. LeBron James has a house in L.A. I don't picture LeBron. I know LeBron James is a businessman and takes care of his business. But to me, but I guess that's the difference. He thinks maybe he can go to L.A. and win a championship. I just don't see that.
Next summer, LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, Russell Westbrook, DeMarcus Cousins, Paul George, Isaiah Thomas, Brooke Lopez, and DeAndre Jordan are all free agents.
The Lakers,
anything
and
can
the
happen.
Lakers have the money next year to sign 2 max players. Go ahead, give them 2 max players. You beating Golden State? You have Lonzo Ball if you take him, whoever else is on that team, and your 2 max players. You beating Golden State?
Well, and then you make a trade. I mean, there's any number of things you can do. At this point last year, I didn't think that Kevin Durant was going to wind up on the Warriors.
Okay.
So, I mean, any number of different things might happen.
So you have the team right now that you can keep trying to build and make it to the finals every year, or you're going to go out west and try and rekindle this whole thing to try and just get to the finals and beat Golden State.
Right.
I'm pumping the brakes on this way more than other people. It has nothing to do with me being from Cleveland. I'm just looking at it from LeBron's case of he's going to the finals if he stays in Cleveland. And you never know what may happen during a year or what players they can get in Cleveland while LeBron's there to win a championship of which you're going to have a chance because you're going to be in the finals.
Now, I think he's going to go for the simple reason that there's so much smoke on this that there's got to be some fire. People aren't just making this up. This obviously is out there. People believe it's happening, and people who know a lot more about this than I do. So that's my gut feeling. We'll have to wait and see. All right. Who knows what insanity is going to ensue between now and tomorrow morning, but we'll be here to talk it all over with you then. Mike and Mike.